Tonight, I want to give you permission to fail. Not permission to try harder and fail. Not permission to attempt the thing again and see what happens. Actual, deliberate, full permission failure. Because here is what I know from working with couples navigating erection difficulties with a partner. The moment you stop needing it to work, the moment the pressure to perform lifts, something shifts in the body that no technique, no timing adjustment, no amount of effort has been able to produce. The nervous system exhales. And that exhale, that is where everything we've been building towards actually begins. Welcome back. This is video 3 of the performance paradox. If you're new here, videos 1 and 2 cover the context conflict and the spectator, the two mechanisms behind why erection difficulties happen with a partner rather than when you're alone. And there's links in the description below, and it's really worth starting there. Today is the first video when I'm giving you something you can use tonight. No preparation required. You can do it very easily and in 10 minutes. And all I ask is a willingness to let go of the one thing that's been making this harder than it needs to be. Now, the exercise is coming, and it'll make much more sense once you know why it works, and that's where we're going to start. What I'm going to suggest is that tonight you remove the goal. That penetrative intercourse is not on the table, and getting an erection is not the objective. And when I say this, sometimes the first reaction isn't relief from the people I'm working with. It's grief. Because for a lot of couples navigating erection difficulties, removing the goal can feel like giving up. Like one more night without the erection they were hoping for and working towards. One more confirmation that something is broken. And I understand that, absolutely. And I want to be honest and call out that grief and acknowledge it and validate it rather than just gloss over it. But tonight, not happening by design is completely different from tonight not happening by failure. One is defeat, and the other is a strategy. The exercise I'm going to walk you through is called Sensate Focus. It was developed by Masters and Johnson, which if you watched the last video, those names probably sound familiar. They are the same researchers who first identified spectatoring. And Sensate Focus has been a foundational somatic intervention in sex therapy for decades. Now, the premise is simple, and the application takes about 10 minutes total at minimum. You're going to build that up over time, but tonight, you're going to start with 10 minutes, 5 minutes per roll, switching once, and we're going to talk about what those roles are. And it has exactly one rule. But before I give you that rule, I want to tell you what Sensate Focus is not. It is not foreplay. It is not a stepping stone towards sex or penetrative intercourse or arousal even. And if you treat it that way, you have immediately reintroduced the goal. Sensate Focus is its own thing, complete in itself, valuable entirely on its own, and should be separate from sex. Now, one more thing before I give you the steps. Some of you are watching this together with your partner. Some of you found this series, and maybe your partner doesn't know you're watching it or that it exists, or they don't feel ready to engage with it yet, and that's totally fine. Sensate Focus really is meant for couples, but if your partner's not ready for this yet, you can still do a solo version of day 1 in the 7-day reset calendar that is a really useful starting point and will be linked below. And you can build the conditions on your own before you build them with your partner. Sensate Focus is a series of guided touch exercises, and the premise is simple. One partner is the toucher and the other is the receiver. You'll set a timer. I'm going to have you guys start with just 5 minutes each tonight, but you're going to want to build that up over time where you're in the role for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe even 30 minutes. So it could be a total of 30 to 60 minutes for this exercise, but tonight we're just starting with 10 minutes. So 5 minutes of each partner in each role. And that timer is really important, helps create containment, helps you stay present in the moment, not thinking about how much time has passed, and you can just be really present because you know that timer is going to go off. There's a few things I want you to set up before you begin. Create a space that feels calm, soft lighting, comfortable temperature, phones on do not disturb or out of the room is even better. This isn't about creating a romantic scene. It's about removing distractions so you can be present. Next, you want to decide on clothing. You can start fully clothed or in underwear or without anything. The beauty of Sensate Focus is you can build upon it. So if you start with clothing, you might next time or in a few times take off some clothing, and you can add on or take away wherever you're feeling most comfortable. We want to really create safety. Now, most couples tend to start with something on, but there is no right answer, and you can change this as you go and as you understand it better. Now, the receiver is going to lie face down on the bed because that's a little less vulnerable than being belly up. Now, if laying face down on the bed doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel safe enough, that's totally fine. You guys can go to the couch, you can sit side by side. This is really about creating safety. So find a position that feels safe where you guys can engage easily with each other. Then you're going to set your timer for 5 minutes per roll. If one or both of you has a trauma history that might get activated, start even smaller. You can start with even 2 to 3 minutes. There is no one right way to do this. Building safety is the goal, not just checking a box of doing something. And before we actually get to the touch itself, here's the one rule. No penetrative intercourse, no sex at all. Even if arousal happens, bodies are going to do what bodies are going to do. Even if both of you at the end are in the mood to have sex, the boundary is the point. It teaches your nervous system that closeness doesn't have to lead somewhere. And even more importantly, that you will honor what you agreed to. If you said, this is what we're going to do, you guys are both going to stick to it. That's really, really important. We want Sensate Focus to be separate from sex. Now for the touch itself. When you are in the toucher role, your job is only to notice. Notice what it feels like to you. You are not thinking about what your partner wants in that moment, not whether they are enjoying it, but focusing on what it feels like in your own hands. The temperature of their skin, the texture, the weight of the contact. You are touching for your own sensory experience, not to please your partner or to bring about arousal. You're also not giving a massage. You're not working out tension or aiming for any response. You are simply exploring and being present. Now, if you are the receiver, your job is also just to notice. Just notice what it feels like to be touched. That's it. You don't need to perform enjoyment or feign pleasure. You don't need to reciprocate. You just receive in this moment. For your first session, touch anywhere on the body except genitals and breasts, and if you have any other erogenous zones. So this, for most people, includes arms, back, leg, face, feet. And you want to give really equal, curious attention across the whole body with no extra focus on any particular part. And also, there is no kissing or mouth contact in this first level. Now, that's a lot of body to cover in 5 minutes, why it's helpful to increase this time. So don't feel like you have to rush through the whole body. It's, again, just about being present. You guys will add time and add more exploration as you go. As you come back to this practice over multiple sessions, you're going to continue to build. So once you've had multiple sessions where breasts and genitals, erogenous zones are not included, you can introduce those to this practice. But you're doing it with the same neutral, curious attention that you give to all parts of the body. You are not creating arousal. You're not doing anything more than you were before. You're just exploring and noticing. In the next level, you might want to introduce lotion or lubricant, again, not for arousal, but just to see how sensations change. And through those levels, you're not including mouth kissing or any mouth contact, but eventually you can start to include that. You may use exploration with your mouth or light kissing or mutual touching at the same time. And eventually, if and when you are both genuinely ready, you may include exploring with sexual penetrative intercourse. But this is still slow and exploratory. There's no goal of orgasm or performance. This doesn't happen all in one night. This happens over multiple sessions, over days, weeks, and often months of building up safety and engagement. We are creating a foundation here, and it's much better to go slow now and build that foundation well. I also want to note that while we're building this strong foundation, consent is key. If you are the receiver and you are receiving touch that you don't like, you can always say, can you please move on from that? Or I would like a different sensation. Something that is still keeping you present, but keeps you feeling safe. You don't have to just absorb all of the sensations and the touch because that's not going to make you feel safe. So the goal is safety. So it's how can you communicate that to your partner? I want a different sensation. I want you to move a different part to my body, or you guys are just still being curious and present. In Sensate Focus, the toucher and receiver are asking the same question. How does this feel? Now, the first minute or two of this practice when you're just starting can feel a little strange or uncomfortable. Your mind will probably want to drift towards where is this going, or am I doing this right? Getting back into that role. That's the spectator, though, looking for its job. You don't need to fight it. Just notice that it's there, the way we talked about in video 2, and gently bring your attention back to the sensations you're experiencing in this moment. Not to a thought, but to a sensation. Focus on the texture of skin, the rhythm of breathing, the warmth of contact. That's the whole exercise. And for many couples, this really helps shift things from performance to presence. Let's talk about a couple that I worked with that worked on Sensate Focus. We'll call them Nina and David. And they came in having tried what seemed like everything. They'd read articles, they had conversations, and they'd really been attempting the let's not put pressure on it approach. But every attempt at no pressure was secretly still a pressure test in disguise. Because underneath each attempt was an unspoken question. Will it work this time? So the goal hadn't actually been removed, it had just been reframed. So when I introduced them to Sensate Focus, David's first response was definitely skepticism. He said, I feel like we've been doing this, trying just to be present and to not make a big deal. And I said, the difference between what you've been doing and this exercise is the one rule. You've been trying to not make it a big deal while secretly hoping it will turn into a big deal. This time, the rule is that it definitively, by design, will not. And that line, the one that's been blurry for you guys, gets drawn very clearly. And that can change everything. And they came back a few weeks later after trying Sensate Focus. And Nina said something to me I thought about many times since. She said, the first night we tried it, nothing happened. Exactly as planned. And you know what? I cried afterwards. Not because I was sad, but because for the first time in I didn't know how long, I felt actually close to him and present. I wasn't performing close, but actually close. That's what Sensate Focus is actually doing. It's not building towards sex. It's rebuilding the nervous system's relationship with closeness, teaching the body over and over in these small, low-stakes increments that nearness doesn't mean pressure, that this person's presence is safe, that this room is not a test. And once that lesson settles into the nervous system, which it will with repetition, the whole context begins to change. Not because you tried harder, but because you finally, genuinely stopped. Because one exercise is a starting point, not a practice, I've built something to go with this video. It's called the 7-Day Somatic Reset Calendar, a day-by-day guide with 7 variations of this low-pressure presence approach. Each one slightly different, each one building on the last, all of them having exactly 0 performance requirements. It's in the description below, it's free, and it exists because I know the hardest part of making a change isn't understanding why it matters. It's having a structure to return to when life gets busy and the old patterns try to come back. In the next video, video 4, we're going to address the thing that most people find even harder than the erection patterns, the conversation. Because what happens for many couples as they start to do the work, the erection patterns can shift, but the emotional weight of everything that's come before is still in the room. Moments that felt like rejection, apologies, disconnect, the distance that has accumulated over time. Video 4 is all about language, and specifically exact words with actual scripts for both partners for the moments that usually end in silence or an apology that tends to make things worse. I call these the side door scripts, and I think they might be one of the most practical tools in this entire series. That's in video form. Let me leave you with this. Your nervous system does not care about the story you tell yourself about why intimacy should be working by now. It does not care how long you've been together. It does not care how much you love this person. It cares about one thing. Is this safe? Do I feel safe? So your job tonight is not to make anything happen, to not prove anything or improve anything or get anything back to where it used to be. Your job is to spend 10 minutes, 5 per person, switching once, making the answer to that question, am I safe? Yes. That is all. And it turns out that is enough.